as you might see, I already have done some work here with the tasks, so I'm just going to go straight into the bowling. I will say this about bowling. So you're probably familiar, right? You have bowling is scored over 10 frames, and each frame, and you alternate, right? You throw a frame, and then it's somebody else's turn. A frame is 2 throws, normally. If you if you hit if you there are 10 pins, if you knock over anything up to 9 pins, that is an open frame. If you manage to down all 10 in 2 throws, that's a spare. If you manage to down all 10 in your first throw, that's a strike. The scoring. So the scoring is, if you have an open frame, that's you could just get the number of pins. If you make a spare, you get the number of pins, which is 10, plus the number of pins on the next throw. So if you have a spare and then a strike, you get 20 for the spare because the strike is 10 pins. If you have, well, a spare and then 7, then it's 17. A spare and then a gutter ball, then it's 10. If you have a strike, same thing, but you get the next 2 throws. In particular, if you have a strike, and then the next frame you have a strike, and then the next frame after that you have a strike again, well, that's 30. Right? Because that's the strike, and then next 2 throws were strikes, so that's 20 points. So you can get up to 30 points. With 10 frames, that means the maximum in bowling is 300, which is, I suspect, exceedingly rare to actually manage. The last frame is a bit different from the others, because normally if you, either had your 2 throws or made a strike, you're done with the frame and you move on. In the last frame, well, you might be in a situation where you need an extra throw or 2 extra throws to be able to, because you right, if it's a spare, you need you have the points for 1 extra throw, so you get the extra throw. Doesn't count in itself, but it counts as part of your spare. Same with strike. Then it's just 2 extra throws. So last frame is a bit different. And let's just go into that with only that knowledge, and simply proceed with the task list I have below. It is kind of long, so I will try to code a lot and maybe not get too distracted by speaking at this point, because otherwise I'll stay here forever. Let's see how that goes though. But let's see. Game starts at 0 points. So what do we? So test that. So okay. Game equals new game, and game starts at 0 points. So I guess assert equals 0, game dot get. I'm going to call them total points because I'm thinking a bit ahead. I might have refactored that instead, but let's do that. Okay, I need to get everything to compile now. So JUnit 4. Need to make this. Up here, of course, class game. So import this and make this one. So create method, get total points, it returns 0. And that's actually enough because I set 0. So let's try running this. Amazing. So So far, so good. Incomplete throw is not scored. So when I say incomplete, I probably should call that incomplete frame. So let me call that instead. Incomplete. So if you only have one throw and it's not a strike, you don't get a score yet. Well, it's still registered. So if you have a throw 7, huh? Yeah, I can't call it throw, huh? That's a reserved word. Do throw 7. Assert equals 0, comma, game dot get total points. So do throw. Well, it doesn't do anything. I like to call that pin, so why not? Let's run it again. I mean, I'm asserting that they're 0 and I'm returning 0, so I'm pretty sure I'm done. Okay. So these didn't do much, but I needed to have them there, so when I start making changes that they will still catch, so that I don't make an error here. Okay, let's look at open frames. That's more interesting. So an open frame is scored. So it's almost the same as this, but an open frame is scored. And so open frame is scored. Better make it an open frame then. 7-2. That's a 9. Good. And that fails, of course. So what do we do? Well, I guess I need to have an idea about this do throw, right? Okay, so so maybe it seems like this could be relevant. An int. So let me do a. If you compare to the previous, you'll see that I'm doing a bit more coding here. For each test. Not all tests, but the simple ones certainly. Total points, and what do we do? Well, I mean, this is the logic, right? Add pins to total points, and that seems fine. But now I fail the incomplete frame is not scored. So I will need to have an idea about when am I complete and when am I not complete. So I guess I need to also have okay, I mean, this definitely needs to change because that's just, but okay, one open frame is scored and it seems to be okay. Game goes to next frame after open frame. Okay, goes to next frame. Apparently, it seems I should have an idea about that. I know what frame I'm in. That's interesting. Let's see. Actually, I think I want one more. Public void. I call that complete, right? Yeah. So I think I want actually to test because I think that makes sense. I need to clean my mess, I guess, so that let me call it get frame number. I think that's clearer. And it's an int, return 0, seems fine. It just seems logical that I shouldn't just test that it gets to 2. I should test that it starts at 1. Let me just get it green and then do the real coding after the next test. I think before I do that, game. You know what? No. Let me private game. Make a setup. Okay, so and find this. Good. Okay, so now it's a bit cleaner. Let's do the next test because that's the one I want, of course. Let's just do this. It's always a bad sign if you want to do too much copy pasting. But I'll allow this once, and then I'll probably think a bit about how to move on. Okay. I mean, I hard coded a 1, so of course it doesn't work. The easiest way is probably just to do this. No, that's not even the easiest way. This is clearly the easiest way. This is going to, of course, this is going to fall down when I get to the strikes, but this far it just works. So fine, I guess. Yeah. Let me try to move on. I have this in mind that this is not the right solution. I have this in mind. Let's see if we can force this away. Game score, frame score is registered. Okay. So apparently there's something called frame score. So it's kind of like this. I don't know what to call this. Registered, I suppose. So I did. So yeah, you get total points, but you also get frame points. Frame 1. I certainly need one more test for this. Well, first of all, it doesn't compile. So let's fix that. And return 0. See it fail. It has a really obvious solution by now. Right? Okay. That seems amazing. There is something wrong with this. Definitely. And I need to start thinking about which tests do I actually get. And I think the thing that breaks down is if I continue after an open frame, there are some of these very, very simplistic things that I'm doing that will stop working. Let's see what I have in my tasks. Frame score is retained after the next frame starts. That's nice. I think I'm quite a few test shorts. Public void. Frame score is not registered. therefore the frame is complete. I think that makes sense. And I think it probably works if I just take this away. No, it doesn't, does it? It doesn't. Because now I need this logic. I suppose I can just go to get total points instead. And now I think it works. It didn't. Wait. Oh, my test is wrong. No, I explicitly expected not to register any score, so this should work. Okay, this is the correct one. Let me just start thinking a bit about what on earth I'm doing with this, because I mean, what's wrong with this? Well, what's wrong with this is what happens once we move into the next frame. Let's try to test some things that I don't have in the test list, because I think what I want to do is I want to do this pretty much. So I want to do this, and then I want to do one more. Doesn't matter what it is. It just matters that there is one more. So now we have 3. And what does that mean? Well, it means that now that we have 3, right, this is one frame and this is a different frame. Now I'm doing something with frame number. I think I'm still expecting a frame number to be 2. So I guess that's fine. I don't actually want to test that because that's too simplistic. But I expect the total score to be 9 still. Second frame is not scored until it is complete. Score no. Point, right? Yeah. Okay, let's run this. Okay, I get 0, and the reason I get 0 is I have this, right? And now things are starting to happen, because how do we even fix that? If I have 3, I should get the 2 first. How does this work? So I should store this somewhere that we have some frame points. Okay, now I'm on the road. I'm back on track. Now I know what to do. So of course there's a 0. That's fine. Frame points are 0. And what do we have? Well, we have here a number of throws. So I'm just saying, okay, number of throws plus plus, that's fine. But what if we're done? And I think this is what we need to do. So frame points plus equal pins, right? I think we need to do that first. Now we have one more throw. But if, and I think I want the if here, number of throws is 2. Then total points, not plus equals pins, but frame points. Frame points is 0, and so is number of throws. Because what I'm doing here, the code here is new frame, right? And therefore, I just return total points here. And Because now I'm resetting number of thrones, my get frame number stops working. Nice, because that was never right. It's rare that I'm happy with a failing test, but this particular case, I'm very happy with the failing test. Okay. So that takes care of a lot of simplistic nonsense that I just did to make things happen. Also, it gives me a really good and solid test. Read so far. Good and solid tests for actually seeing that this works. Testing what could go wrong. Now, there is a couple of things, because I only have an int frame point. And get frame points, I mean, this is not wrong, right? If I have 2 complete frames, I'm going to have problems here. So, I think I have a problem here. Okay, since I'm writing the tests, let me continue, but I really really need to do something with all this repetition. So that's what, 16, right? Okay, it doesn't matter, because I said independent. So the 7.1 game.get frame points of frame 2. That should fine. Certainly does. I mean, it gives me 16 because it's total score, of course. So how do I fix that? Well, the only thing I can see I can do with this is make it an array. So 10. And I guess I need to go frame number. Remember that these are 0 based, so -1. And I need a lot of that, huh? That's not a good sign. But okay, let's. Again, let me leave that now and deal with it later, because I think big changes are coming anyway. So, okay, that did not work. What? So what did not work? So here I'm not getting anything. Why would that be? Okay, let's see. I get a lot of zeros, then I add the pins. So I'm throwing a 7, I'm throwing a 2, and then when I get frame points index 1, I get a 0, huh? Okay, I don't understand this. Let me just put in a breakpoint, debug this particular test, and just see what happens. So I have a frame points, that's an array, that's all 0, it should be. Now I'm going, let's see. Yeah, let's just move down here. 1 throw, so this doesn't happen, and then we move on. And then we come back here. That's a bit early to count frame. Is that a bit early to count frame points, huh? Okay, that's not the problem I have there. Wait, this is a mistake. Okay, I have two mistakes. So first of all, I'm making a mistake of doing this before I change frame number. Let me take frame number and then set the new one to 0. It's already 0 there. So, okay, let me do something else. Rerun the entire thing. Okay, now this works. This is the problem with testing too much or changing too much. You get weird stuff. Frame score is not registered before the frame is complete, and that's not true. Because I add here already. So that's not what we want. I want more variables. And I don't need any of these this start, but I like the consistency, so I'm using that. So what I want is, I don't want this. I want current score. What did I call that? Current points. And then, if the number of throws is 0, then we can go frame points, frame number -1 equals current points. And we can also use the current points here, I think. Would be fine. Okay, I still have a bug. Let me debug this. I don't get it. So I guess the first two I know what happens. What happens when we come in here the third time? With 4 pins. So the current points is 9, and that's correct. The frame points, there's 9 on the first. What is the frame number now? It's 2. Okay. Okay, I'm confused. Let me just step. So number of throws is still 1, right? Yeah. So this should do nothing, and it does nothing. Then we go, let me go to the place again. Okay. Current points, 13. Oh, whoa. I forgot that. Okay, back to the test. This time just run everything and hope for the best. What's going on here? Oh, I'm still in the debug. Fine. Okay, it ran and everything's correct now. Okay, that was a pretty big one just to make this change. But I mean, if you keep sort of kind of weird incomplete test, why is it doing that? That's not. Did that fail? It didn't. I don't know. Okay, I don't know why it told me it failed, but sometimes if you leave it a bit too long to actually make the changes you need to change, you end up with this. Let me just see, do I have anything else? Because the open frame frame score is retained after next frame starts, I suppose. Let me do all open frames and then cleat. Okay. So frame score. I'm going after the next frame. I think that's just as good a test. So I'm also testing now that the first is 1. That the first is 9, and I'm pretty sure that just works. Okay. Total score is the sum of frame scores. So total score is the sum of frame scores. I guess I'm in a similar situation. So let me do this. And so I don't even know which way. So game.get frame points. Game.get frame points 1 plus game.get frame points 2 should be the same as game.get total. Nice. Okay. Let's just see that it works. And now I need to clean the code, or I'm going to hate what I see. So I have a lot of these, right? And I think it's probably good to simply do a method. So private void open frame first in second. Let me just spell it right. Here we are. Okay. Which means that with open frame we can just go open frame 7,2 instead of this. It's not just about having less code, it's also about having code that's easier to read. And now I think I'm doing something stupid, because open frame 7, if I give it open frame 7,3, it's no longer open. So let's just call it frame. So a frame of 7,2. Again, notice that I'm running these all the time. And here's another frame. 4,3. Zone 2 and 4,3. Okay, I'll definitely need to run after that, and let's do all of this, and I definitely need to run after that. Okay, so that's a bit cleaner. Back to the code over here. I mean, it's kind of works. There are a couple of things I don't like about it. There are a ton of things I don't like about it. The next thing I'm going to do is pairs, and that's complicated. And this is a messy, unfocused piece of code that is doing if this, if that, working with a lot of different variables at the same time and doing a lot of different things. I'm going to do one really minor refactoring, and then I'm going to do one major refactoring. I've done this before, as I said. I know this is the time to do it. This is getting too complex. It is getting too cohesive. This is not a cohesive class any longer. It's doing too much work. I mean, it's supposed to keep track of the frames, but it's doing too much. It's doing too much of of sort of nitty-gritty details about how is the current frame running. And that should be in a new class, and that class should be called frame. You might get to this realization even before writing the first test, of course. Bowling has frames. Sure. But let's refactor our way there. Before I do that, this bugs me a bit. It doesn't bug me a lot, but it bugs me a bit. Because hard-coded numbers are not great. And also later when I want to test something else, I don't want to have this hard-coded. So even though it's in the rules, I would like to have an option. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go number of frames here and put that in. And oh, come on. And now my code over here doesn't compile, but I can fix that easily. You could put in your own default constructor that puts in the matching number 10, but let's just put it in. So, number frames. That's a smaller thing. A big, larger thing is I'm going to make this slightly less performant, because what is total points? I have a test that says total points is just the sum of the points of the frames. In sort of software engineering terms, that means total points is a cache. I'm caching. Because I suppose I'm caching this sum because it's more performant. It's also more complex because it's an extra variable I need to have. How bad is it to add 10 numbers? It probably takes less than a microsecond. Or at least and if it doesn't, it can't be many microseconds. It doesn't matter. Let's not cache this. Let's just do it. Let's instead go int total points equals 0 for int point in frame points. For int point in frame points, total points plus equals point. This goes against the instinct of a lot. Okay, I need to test this, but this goes against the instinct of a lot of people, because now I'm doing this computation every time. But honestly, I could have done this more elegantly, but never mind. But honestly, you should not. I mean, you shouldn't cache things that you don't need to cache. This is perfectly fine. Okay. So what I have gained? Well, I've gained that the frames are now suddenly very important. And I'm going to go through a process, because now I'm going to introduce a new class. That's a helper class for game, to make game a bit more cohesive. But game will be coupled to this class. But I think that's fine. I mean, a game has frames, right? And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going through some code that's simply not correct, but I don't care. There we are. Because first, I'm going to say, I can't make it public, can I? Class frame. That should have, so all these frame points I have down there, right? What if they were in a frame instead? So let me just make it public first. I mean, that's terrible, but I'm going somewhere with it, right? And then I have, instead of frame points at some point, but right now let's just make a frame array. And frames. And make new frame number of frames. Okay. Now, frame points, I didn't initialize that, right? You know, if you make an int array, everything is 0, and I wanted them to be 0, so I initialize them. Frames. if I make a new frame array, everything is null, and I definitely don't want it to be null. I want it to be a frame. I could create the frame sort of every time you complete a frame, you compute a new. You make a new frame for the next one, but I'm going to need all the frames. I might as well make them. So 4. So now I have all these frames. What to do with them? And first of all, I want to make, if I want to use frames instead of points, I want to make absolutely sure that frames has the right data in there. So this is just reading. This is also just reading, but here I'm writing. So if that means it's important that frames. What did I even call that? I call it points. Well, let's see. That frames, frame number -1 dot points is current points. Right, now just have the same information twice. This is still terrible. Okay. I'll do something with it. So so the point is that now I can start using frames instead of frame points. So like here. That worked. I can do it here. Frame, frame, frames. Frame dot points. Still works. It's not great code, but it still works. So what am I using the frame points for now? Well, I'm initializing and I'm writing to it, but I'm never actually reading the values in it. That should mean, let's stop writing to it and see if it still works. Okay. Then it's probably superfluous, right? Go away. What? Apparently it doesn't want to delete it. Well, I delete it then. Because it's certainly superfluous. Fine. Now, let's deal with the ugliness, because public, what? Public in points? No. Let's see what we can do with refactoring. Refactor this. There should be encapsulate field. I don't, yeah, I need a set access. Good. So now we have get and set. To be honest, a lot of people like this. To be honest, that's not a lot better. I mean, I still have full access. Let's see with this set points. That's the one I don't like. Let's see what we can do. But at least we no longer have a public int. So that's great. Okay. What I want to do is I want to start now I have this in place. I want to start moving functionality from the game to the frame. I mean, down here, that's fine, right? That's already in frames, get points, fine. That's also frame get points, also fine. It's this one. It's definitely this one. It's definitely this that, oh, now we're setting the points to the current points. I think I'd like a frame. Let's just make a constructor, we might as well. And let's try to keep track on the current points and number of those in here. And I will probably try to do the same as before and go public int current frame. No, current frame, what did I want to say? Current points. And do the same and move that to there. Let's see how that works. So first of all, current points every time I set current points, I should make sure to also do it for the frame. Okay, I set this to 0, but it's already 0. I mean, I've changed to a new frame, so that's already 0. So a number throws the same, so I don't care. I should set it, by the way. Some of you might be annoyed by this, right? Everything is already 0, now I set it to 0. I like the code to tell me what it's doing, and not my knowledge of Java defaults to let me decipher what it's doing. So, current points, number of throws, I guess, same goes for here. So, I don't know if you see my strategy, but my strategy is, in general, to move variables that are in here to my helper class, but duplicate them first, publicly. Then, all the place I update the variables, where it makes sense, I suppose, I also update the ones from a helper class. That actually makes no difference. The code's still running and works. However, a couple of things are going to be important, because now I can start number of throws. Sure, okay, I made a mistake here. I mean, the test would have called it right here, but number of throws now, I can use the one from the frame instead. And always run the test. That's how I know it works, right? So, the current points, I can use. I guess I can use the one from the frame. Okay. Where else am I using current points? Well, I'm not. Where else am I using number of throws? I'm not. Let's just delete everything that has to do with these and see if it still works. I mean, if it doesn't, there's always undo, right? Good. If you're watching this in video, you might want to actually run through this a couple of times from the beginning to the end of this refactoring. It's a very big refactoring. This happens sometimes, but the result is going to be good, I promise. Okay, now here we have something that is extremely weird. Everything is happening in frame. The only thing that's not happening in frame is the frame number plus plus. So let me just try something. First of all, let's distinguish that what's happening in frame from what's not happening in frame. So, right, so this is not happening in frame. I mean, the if statement is, but something is happening in here. All of this is change the frame in some way. This kind of thing is sometimes called a code smell. This code smells bad, or really bad actually. And this particular, what it smells like is, it smells like code that wants to be somewhere else. Because everything is about frame. We get something from frame, and then we set it in frame, and we get... So all this code here looks like something I want to be a method up here. And now, from now on, the code will start getting better instead of worse. I promise. because this is what we want it to be. Now, this refers to frames, the frame number. That's, of course, not that. That's just here. So if we take this code, and say, well, that was that code, right? This is just do pins. It still works. This is also kind of annoying. I mean, I really do want to go public boolean is played. Return number of throws. And instead, just call that. That helped a lot with game, right? Not only is it, I mean, it just has a number of frames and a frame number. It is just, it's just doing this. If frame, right, frames that do throw, if frame is played, frame number plus plus. The rules about how to play a frame is up here, and it's pretty simple. Then we have this set points. I mean, we don't do that, right? Let's find a refactoring. So under refactor, what can we do? We can inline the method. Just inline this. I just wanted this to go away. Oh, now it turned grey. Yeah, it's not actually used. Gone. These public int. I expected a warning, but I didn't get a warning. Okay, I'm not using my cited class. They need to be private, of course. So this is nicely encapsulated. There is get point, do throw, and is played. And that's it. That's what we need to know about frames. That's one thing more, but we'll get to it. But right now, we have a frame, we have this. This is much cleaner code. What on earth is this doing in the same file as game, by the way? This is terrible. It's much cleaner, but it's not quite there. Refactor. Let's see. I'm pretty sure it's here. Let's see. Maybe smooth class? Probably is. To package. Refactor. And here it is. And I suppose it could be public. I don't expect to use the frame outside of game, but fine. Okay. So that's the refactoring I need. At some point, you need to make this refactoring and figure out that, yeah, you need an extra class. And that's actually important. Of course, I could have saved that by making the design first, but that doesn't always happen. So you might as well see the refactoring. Okay, that was probably the worst. Let's go back. I'm certainly done with this, and I think I'm done with open frames. Let's look at spares. Because new things start to happen. And spares are a bit more complex, and if I didn't have the previous refactoring in place, I would have to write some really, really nasty code that would take even longer to refactor. Public void spare is not scored immediately. Frame 7.3 assert equals game dot get frame point. No. Assert equals 0. Game dot get frame point 1. Yeah, because we don't actually know what the score is until the next throw. That's probably not the case. So what happens? Well, the frame here is immediately saying if number of throws is 2, then this dot point is equal current price. So that's not good enough. So there are kind of two, right? There are kind of two cases. Let's see if we can how simply we can do this. If now let's see if number of through is 2 and current points less than 10. I mean, that's fine. Actually, it works, doesn't it? Yeah, it actually works. That's enough. But the next doesn't. Because the next is obviously to test. So let's throw one more to throw. Game done. And now we should have 14. And that is definitely not going to happen. Definitely not going to happen. Actually, I think I want to make it easier for myself and just say throw 0 to make the easy one first. Okay, I expected 10, but I got 0 because of this no frame. Because of this one. Yeah, because it never happened, right? We have another case, or number of throws is 3. And current points. No, number of throws is 3. Never mind current points. Then what? Kind of expected. Oh, doesn't it? No, it doesn't work. Yeah, I've made it easier for myself, but it didn't work. Okay, the problem is this never happens. Why does it happen? Well, because the game has moved on. The game has moved on because frame number plus plus. So it's not enough to do frames, frame number -1, do throw pins. I need to go and actually tell the frames that I haven't been at yet. Oh, by the way, we threw some pins. You might actually want to change your score. How does that work? Let's see. That sounds like a 4. Oops. First is, yeah, the last is frame number -1. I think this should be right. This will not work. Because now I am throwing things into frames that are already done. I only want to do this if the game is not done. So can I know if the game is not done? It seems that this is that if, isn't it? So let's make that a method. Right click, refactor. I'm going to start using shortcuts for some of these. Extract method is a boolean. No, that's not the name. No, is well done. I mean, it has been played, right? So let's call it is scored, but it's because it's not scored yet. Oh, I made it private. I don't know, public, because I wanted to use it here. If not frames I dot is scored. Do this. Okay, that works. I'm done with a lot of what I need to do in game, and a lot of what's remaining has to do with frame. Let's just do that. I like to make a few changes here. Because it seems to me that I can instead, if it's not scored, then the points are 0, right? So I think I can do the is score in is scored. I think I can do that in get points instead. If it's scored, return points. Else, return 0. And then I don't think I need to do this. No. This means that points is always equal to current points. That's kind of silly. So I guess I can just return current points. Okay. I guess I don't need this then. Okay. Well, if there's the only thing that's points here, then I guess it's just points. So, so that was a bit neater, but apart from that, that's just okay. So that's let me check my tasks. So spares not scored immediately. I fixed that. Spare scored after next throw. I fixed that. Game moves on to next frame after spare. That's actually probably good to test, because what am I testing here? Well, I'm testing now. I have 2 Boolean methods in frame, right? I have an is scored and is played, and I mean we can see they're different, but it's good to have a test for it. So game moves to next frame after spare. So frame 7,3. That was the 3rd time I wrote that, so I am going to do something about that. Assert equals to game.getCurrent. What? Frame number. I think it does already, but that's just it. So that's done. So now spares is complete. Yep, that's it. Now strikes. Except, speaking of strikes, right, 3 strikes and you're out is a pretty good rule of thumb for these repetitions. Also, I would love to see this be a bit more clean. So why don't we just say this is a method and it's called spare? What? It wants to change something. What? I don't know what it tried to do there, but at the very least, it did the right thing. I just like to have it up here. So it's next to frame. So frame, right, spare. Do that. So that's spare strikes. Strike is not scored immediately. So maybe we can start thinking about what is a strike. Private void strike game dot do throw. I think I'm seeing a pattern. Let's just do this. Okay. Strike is not. I mean, same thing, right? We do a strike. So it equals 0 game dot get. That's probably. Yeah, this works. But the next one shouldn't. after strike. So strike. That has to fail. I mean, yeah. So frame, because there's something special with strike, right? Is played if number of throws is 2 or there's just no more pins. So points is 10. Yeah, it's played. So that's the that's that test. Next test, let's start scoring. Okay. So what do I have here? Tasks. Not scored immediately. Done. Move on to next frame. Done. A strike is scored after next two throws. I think I should probably also have one that says strike is not scored after next throw. It's not a spare. So if we go strike here, let's do this. Copy this. Strike. See. That worked. What? Okay, that worked. Fine. For some reason, it's not done. I could go look at the code, but I could also do is scored after next 2 throws. So let's do 2 throws. Let's just do a full frame. It's 6 this time. Okay, never mind. So what you get here is 18. Right? You get the 10 from the strike and the 1 from the next 2. Everything works. What? I'm pretty sure I have to do something with this strike. Maybe. Okay, let's see. I mean, it says it's not scored. Why? Number of throws is 2 and point is less than 3. Or number of throws is 3. Yeah, that's true. A strike and 2 after it, that's 3. Can I break this? And points less than 10, but the points all no. I don't think. Okay, I can't see how I can break it, so maybe it just works. I didn't expect that, but maybe it just works. That surprises me, but hey, then it's nice to have tests. I can't see I can break it. If I could, if I had looked at it and said, "Oh, I have a bug," well, what do I do? What I do is, I am going to say, well, if I have a bug, what do I do? I write a test, and that test should fail because it shows the bug, and then you fix the bug. But I don't know that I have a bug, so I can see the logic. The logic is out. Yeah. 2 throws that are neither a spare nor a strike, or 3 throws. So yeah, that seems sound. There is one more over there that I want to. This is also going to work, I'm pretty sure. It's just so instead of this frame, I'm going to make another strike. And the idea is, well, I think I want more than one assert here. It's still not scored. And now we're going to make some throw here, and now it should be scored. It doesn't matter which, so 2. So it's the next 2, right? So first strike, that's 10. The second strike, that's 10. That's 20. Then the 2 there, so it should be 22. It's just expressing that it's not the next frame that counts for the strike. It's the next 2 throws, and that's why 30 is the maximum. I guess I could also done with 3 strikes. So, I mean, it's not a necessary test, but for documentation purposes, it's nice to have. Also, you want to do something special. So last frame. Spare last frame gives extra throw in the frame. Strike last frame gives 2 extra throws in the frame. I think that's actually... Yeah. So I don't know anything about how do I test that with the current design. Public void spare last frame gives extra throw in the frame. So first of all, last frame. So I want to get to last frame, so I need to score 9 frames and then get to here. Or I need to take advantage of what I just did by saying I don't want to hardcode that 10 frames. Doesn't mean that I can't use all my nice default methods, but I think I'll live with it. It's just 2 tests. A game with 1 frame. So spare, huh? So let's just, what is the situation here? So one of the thing is assert equals that I'm not done. We haven't moved on to the next frame. Let's just, right, in a normal spare, I've tested it up here. Game moves to the next frame after spare. The frame number is 2 after spare. It's not scored yet. I wanted to make this a bit more difficult. I made it easier on myself and then it didn't help, so now I want to make it more difficult. It's not scored. Spare, that's 0. But it did move on to the next frame. Down here, it doesn't move on to the next frame because it's the last frame. And so you need 2 extra. So that's what we should have. So maybe that's obvious, but that's what I want to test. Also, I do want to test that once we do throw whatever, that then is correct. Now, it's a bit weird that this is the way to test that the game is over. And maybe I wanted that, but it's also a way to say the frame is now over, right? You're done with your frame. That shouldn't be a 2 frame, but you're done with your frame. And that's what I want to test. I should probably also just test. So the adage is test everything that can break, and what I'm doing now can't really break. But okay. But okay. Let's test that. Okay, so this shouldn't work. Because it should move on. Exactly. It moves on. That's what the code says. Because there's special rules for last frame, and this frame doesn't even know that it's... I mean, what is a last frame? This doesn't say. And I think I could put in here what frame number it is to make an if down somewhere is played, I suppose. Honestly, I don't think that's the way to do here. Because I'm just saying the last frame is special. I've said that a couple of times. And I think just the way to do this is to make a special. Last frame is special. So I have a last frame that extends frame. So the last frame, so in game, of course, I should probably do that, right? So the last frame is special. So instead of this, we are doing 1 less, and then we are going list of frames, number of frames -1. That's the last. It's a last frame. Okay, That doesn't do anything because the last frame is just the same, right? It's just, but it's there, right? But it still fails. So what do we do with that? Well, let me just show you. Okay, I can't remember how to do that. Let me find out. Code. Override. Oh, I had too much. Because this is different, right? The problem is that it thinks it's played because it's a spare. And we're done. But it's not played. And why is it not played? Well, because you need another roll to get your point. Okay. It's not played because it's not scored, I guess. So how is the last frame different from a normal frame? It's not played until it's scored. And that's the thing. A lot of people are confused about that, but that's actually the rule. And you can see it here in code, so I think that's nice. I don't think this would be much different if you didn't use test-driven development. This is just an inside event, the last frame. So here we are. Okay. That was one test, then there's the other test. That was that. Strike gives 2 extra. I mean, fine. Okay. So strike gives 2 extra throws. So let's do a strike then. 10. So yeah, we do that and then we throw again. That shouldn't help. We still have a throw. Then let's do, I mean, there are a lot of variations we could do, but I'm still, I mean, test what can fail, right? And I don't think, I put a spear here. I could actually, no, said, let's put a strike. No, let's put a spare there just to see that it does move on even after a spare, right? You do not get, oh, that's a spare, so now I get an extra. No. You get your 2 extra for the strike, and that's it. What does that give us? Well, I suppose that's 20. Let's see. I expect it to work. Because of the simplicity of my change, I expect it to work, but I think it should be here. Another thing I expect to work is the next. That you may or may not want to test, but it's just such a nice sanity check, because this is a relatively well-known fact. So game equals new game 10. Oh no, wait, I have this already. All I want to do is for 12 times, because of the rule we just implemented, I want to throw a strike. 12 strikes. So now it's going to be interesting to see if I did make a bug after all. I didn't. I'm just curious, but I will leave it as it is, but I'm just curious. I'm pretty sure that because of the if is scored, right? Yeah, 14 doesn't. Yeah, gets an array index out of bounds exception. I guess that's what it should get. Because the last one is scored and then we move on and then suddenly, or is played and then we move on and suddenly we are out of bounds. Yeah. I have more, but I don't think I want to do. Or maybe I want to do 1 and then 6. Okay, I actually only have 1. No, wait, I have some. Oh, I made them wrong. Okay. I just want this. It's illegal to throw past final frame. Just that one. I'm screwed up how this is supposed to work, but let me just fix that. Well, I think I just want to test that anyway, because I think that's the interesting one. Test expected, not so if I'm trying to throw past the final frame, What does that mean for the, well, the game is in no state to accept more throws. Okay, so it's in a legal state. Knowing the illegal argument exception and illegal state exception classes is kind of nice, because there's a lot of things that we want to throw that are either because of illegal argument or legal state. And you could, if you want your own, you could extend them. And if you don't want your own, they're actually pretty good already. Okay, it's illegal to throw past final frame. And there should be stopgaps everywhere to prevent you from doing that. But it's also nice to know in the code that we catch it if people try to do that. So, well, I guess let's do that. So so that was the 12 strikes. So when I try to throw here, doesn't matter what, I expect to see an exception. And I get the wrong kind of exception, right? Because I get an array index out of bounds exception. Because that's the one that happens naturally, because now my frame number is too high and I'm getting in here with an I that's too high. But if I want to actually have control over which exceptions I run, I throw, and I do. I certainly don't want people who are trying to write bowling code to get an array index out of bounds exception for an array that they don't even know exists. So yeah, if frame number is bigger than frames dot length, throw you illegal. Not a good exception text, but I've just felt like it. Okay, and that's how you do these. And you could do 3 more. I don't sort of particularly care at this point to do 3 more. I think this shows bowling. This shows bowling, and this shows how this test-driven development works, and it also shows how the test-driven development helps drive design. So one of the things that's nice about writing this test is that it's quite kind of forces you to write code that's easy to test. And if your code is easy to test, it's probably also easy to use in general. And that's one thing that's nice about it. Let's check this just came out. 38 lines, 31 lines, that's 69. 8 lines, that's 77. We can count a lot more advanced because we're counting blank lines and ending braces and so on. Let's just go with 77 lines. 186. So again, unit test code is bigger, and I've done something with the frame and spare and strike to kind of minimize the duplication. We see here that test code is here again more than twice as much as the production code. I think if you test it by remove no blank lines and none of this and so on, it's probably not twice as big, but it's probably about twice as big. But it certainly expect to have a lot of unit test code. If you don't do it this way, you may not have a lot of unit test code, but that's actually not because it's better, right? That's because you don't have enough tests. Simple as that. You won't have enough unit tests to be confident that, for instance, you can test your code. So you want this. So this is it. This is the tester in development of a bowling class.